Hello, Otafest listeners. Welcome back to our Otafest podcast. It's the Thanksgiving episode / Halloween episode / October episode. This is Jay, and with me are recurring guests / longtime Otafest staff / just this episode special co-hosts. I have G and Linda with me.
Hey.
Hello.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
It has. It's been a long time.
For reasons unknown.
I mean, you know, it is what it is.
Life gets busy.
Yeah, life gets busy. More so for some people.
G and I like to stay mysterious, right? So can't always be talking.
Mysterious but friendly. You know how it is.
Angelo, Dio, Nancy, they've just poofed off for some reason, and I've got old friends coming back to the podcast to help me out for an episode or two. So please welcome their wonderful voices onto our show today. We don't have too much to start off with in terms of announcements. We've already kind of gone through it a few times prior. Just get your weekend passes at the early bird price of $54. That's including the service charge online at otafest.com. Save yourself some money. That way you can buy more food or buy more merch. Do whatever it is that you scandalous kids do at our
Scandalous kids.
and save some money. Or don't. We talked about this the other day where we're like, if you wanted to buy a single day wristband so you could collect every wristband, you could. We don't encourage you to do that. But if you want to spend the money and support the con, by all means.
I mean, it supports us. Plus, if somebody has a collection, we're not going to stop you from having a collection of something.
Yeah, I was about to say, I have deep respect for the collector mindset, even though I find it overwhelming sometimes.
It's true. I have friends that, like, for example, they're into the idol scene or, like, I don't know, whatever fandom, and the lengths that the collector mindset goes to. I was like, I understand it a little bit. But my gosh, the actual dedication is just like chef's kiss. You do you, babe. Your money, your time.
It's actually really impressive. Like seeing people with like these huge collections, be it pins, be it like CDs, be it memorabilia, lanyards. Like, it's really impressive to see. I just don't have the ability to do something like that just because I'm just like, I'm not dedicated enough to something to be like, I need everything of this. I'll get like one or two things here and there of something like Final Fantasy 14. I really enjoyed that. So I got a couple of things from Final Fantasy 14, but I'm not the type of guy who's going to collect everything.
I think it's a space issue for me. Like I find it really impressive how collectors have these gorgeous displays. And I have come into several new plush thanks to the Oda fam. We got a care package because we have a little newborn, and I'm like, I can't get, I mean, like, I was gonna say get rid of it. That's not really my point. I just don't know how to display it in a way that makes a lot of sense. And he's a little bit too young to be playing with a lot of it yet, but I'm just like, wow. I know there's people who have these gorgeous like displays, shelves, nets. There's all these sort of ways to display plush, and I'm like, I just have a pile sitting in his crib because he won't sleep in his crib, so that's where they go now until we swap it or something.
Until we swap it out of the crib.
I completely understand because like I have my own like apartment, but I'm notorious for not collecting much at all. I literally have a bookshelf with some drawers for like hiding boxes and stuff, but like it just has my favorite book series. It has some Pokemon stuff, some other random things. And I have literally just condensed all of any necessary things that I declared to be my fandom into this literal, I don't know what to, the square footage must be like 10 square feet of just like, it stays there.
But it's full of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, you know, if you ever come over, you may observe it. And everything else is like, yeah, no, this is my essentials. That's a couch. That's a TV.
See, I'm kind of worse than that because like I will get cool stuff that I like really enjoy and really like, but I will like keep it in its box, and it'll be
oh no,
I actually have it like stored off to the side in its original box and stuff like. And it's not because I'm like, oh, I want to keep it pristine or anything like that. It's just because I'm like, me knowing I have it is one thing, and me like putting it up for display, I'm just like, I don't know, it's in my space, it's for me, I know it's there, I don't really need to display it for anybody else because then I have to clean it and stuff like that. So I'm just like, if I just have it and have it stored somewhere, I'm good with that. But mind you, that's because my current setup.
I believe that if you have it and if you like it should be displayed, and if it's in storage, you should reevaluate whether or not it should be there. I mean, I can't have too many boxes. I say that, except I have like 7 boxes of cosplays that I'm like, yeah, I will never wear these again, but I have memories.
You don't know that.
Yeah, you don't know
Oh,
that.
Look, you have a baby now. You have a baby now. You have a whole new level of couples cosplay.
Well, can we talk about what your Halloween plans are? Do you guys have Halloween costume plans? Because I do this year.
Really?
I do.
I haven't
do share.
properly dressed up. I haven't properly dressed up for Halloween in a long time. Like the only thing I want to do, actually, I'm not even working on Halloween, so I don't know if I'm actually going to commit to this because at work, I'm kind of limited in what I can wear, but I wanted to almost like it's almost like an overcommitment, despite how like simple it might be, because I might wear like minimal makeup and like minimal decorations, but I've always wanted to get like, do you know what scleral contacts are?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're like, first of all, they're expensive.
Yes.
They're like $80 or $90.
Yeah.
They're basically one-time use. They're not healthy for your eyes. These are all things I want to imprint on you, but I still wanted to get them. I've always wanted to wear them just because I just want to get like the straight black, and then you look.
I want to do that too.
Because I wanted to freak out. Yes, I want to freak out coworkers. Is basically it, because I want to be able to be like at my desk at work.
Super
And then,
low key.
Some people, because we're allowed to wear some Halloween, costuming and stuff like that. But I just wanted to be like at work, and then like a coworker comes by and it's like, "Oh, hi Jay, how are you?" And I just turn, and I'm like, "I'm well." Thank you. and they'd be like, because I'd like to get like
The pure black ones, right?
the pure black ones, and then get like maybe a little bit of like eye makeup around, like maybe look at like veiny or like
Yeah.
Okay.
A little
I know what you
unwell,
mean.
like
right?
the so it draws focus to the eyes
Yes. Yeah.
that are all messed up and possessed looking. That's what I wanted to do, but I'm not working Halloween, and I'd rather not work Halloween anyways.
Yeah.
But that's not the point.
And you don't want to do it like
So-
a day before or like something like that.
No, no. But like I said, I don't really have plans otherwise. But I'm super curious to hear what you've got going on, Linda.
Okay. Well, most cosplayers I know don't actually usually dress up for Halloween. I feel like it's like the day. It's the day that you think that people would dress up, but it's the one that we don't. I don't know if the listeners won't have context for this, but Ian is, a nerdy looking
Your
guy.
husband.
Yes, my husband. May have seen him around Otafest, so he usually is hiding in our sort of command center. But we've been watching Ghibli movies, and we watched this Ghibli movie called Kiki's Delivery Service, and I was like, hey, do you not look just like this freaking nerdy ass boy who loves planes, right? Like he's obsessed with flying, and Ian's like kind of just like him. So for
I
a
can
few
100%
years,
see that.
right? So for a few years, I was like, listen, we're gonna do Kiki and Tombo, but now we have a little child, and I'm like, this child could be Gigi. I'm gonna get him a black onesie, make him little black cat ears, and he will be the talking cat
That sounds adorable.
So that is the plan. That is whether or not I get it together is the other question, but I've kind of looked up all these things.
Look, you are a veteran cosplayer. The Con Crunch is just a different time of year. That's all.
That's
it's just
true.
October Con Crunch. I have every faith in you.
And my advantage to this is if I do this, we'll just wear it to actual convention, and it will be ready. It'll be done.
Also true.
Exactly. It's
just-
pre-planning for the next
Yeah,
convention.
so I'm doing the
You may have to
conference
update
now.
the size for your son. though.
100%. He's growing at like, I think the average is like half a pound a week or something, like pretty substantially when in terms of clothing.
nuts.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, that this is, I was like, this year I'm actually inspired for Halloween. Usually I'm like, oh yeah, I'll hand out some candy. Well, I don't know, pull something out of the closet.
You know what's interesting is that like I don't know if the weather's good where you are, but like if the weather's good enough, you could actually take the time to like ride around the neighborhood like on a bike.
Oh, that's
Oh.
ridiculously
Because
cute.
that's yeah, it is. But it's like that kind of just that tracks,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
absolutely. That's true. And I
That'd
do
be
have a
very,
new
very
bike
nice.
I haven't taken out for a spin yet.
There you go.
It's so
I
we'll
mean,
see.
it sounds like everything is lining up.
Yeah.
This might be what you do.
I bought this bike mostly because it has a basket. And I'm like, well, if it doesn't have a basket, what's the point of having a bike?
Yes, that's exactly. I bought the bike for the basket, not for the bike.
Not the
Not
actual
the
bike
opposite
itself.
way around. Yes.
How about you, G? Do you have anything?
No, I was just actually to mention in regards to that is in the past, the only times like, when I was a kid, of course I dressed up because I gonna go get candy. So obviously I have to dress up. It was just one of those things that was expected. But as I've grown up and not gone out trick-or-treating and stuff like that, there have been a few times I've dressed up for like, like work parties and stuff like that, or like a Halloween party at a friend's place. But outside of that, I've been pretty low-key on Halloween, kind of just like chilling out, maybe over at a friend's place, watching some horror movies or something like that. But not a lot of dress up. And even this year, I'm like, I've got like some costumes I can throw on last minute if I need to. But it really depends on what the situation is. If I'm going to be in a group where everybody's dressing up, sure, I've got something. But otherwise, I'm probably just going to be low-key just chilling.
I think the problem is where we live, it's so cold. So most of us have memories of wearing snowsuits over or like underneath our costumes.
Yeah.
And when Halloween's a random Tuesday, it's super hard to get into the spirit of it. And it's only a few hours in the night. So I'm like, am I really going to spend all this time getting dressed, putting on makeup, such and such a thing for... I'm also not even sure that the current neighborhood I live in has a lot of kids. So I'm hoping we have a lot of trick-or-treaters this year, but I'm not sure what that'll look like.
I think part of it is the cost-benefit analysis for Halloween, to apply adult terms to Halloween, is that people... So Halloween has changed since I was a kid. I used to get all bundled up, 2 layers, 3 layers thick, depending on the year, and then you'd stuff your costume over top of that. Right?
Absolutely.
Or under. It depends. Yeah.
And I would get pushed out the door by my parents. Well, no, I say that. No, I mean I super loved Halloween, so
Yeah.
I love trick or treating.
Parents were like, "Are you going out in this?" And you're like, "Yes."
Yeah, after school. Yeah, like after school or whatever the day was. I'd get all ready, and then probably by 5 o'clock, I'm assuming I'd be out the door, and I would go. And I'm talking, I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 probably at the most. I'd go like hard until like 10:30, 10:30, 11, and kids don't do that anymore. Is what I'm saying. Like that's where the cost benefit.
I have heard that kids still
go
do
out for like
that.
2 hours. Kids go out for like 2 hours from like 5 to like 7:30, and that's it.
I don't think
That's what
that's
I hear.
true because one of my coworkers told me that they're smarter now. What's going on now is children or parents have figured out that there are certain communities in Calgary that are more wealthy and give out full-size candy bars. So they will drive over to those communities to get their stuff. That is what's going on. So there's certain communities where like, oh, this isn't worth it to me.
But they don't go like. But that means that they're still not getting like a bag full of candy. I used to get 2 trash bags worth of candy.
Yeah.
Like it was nuts. Now you could say that they're like, oh, you're getting these full size chocolate bars, but then you miss out on variety.
Yeah.
Sure, that's a good point. Did you ever do? I actually almost exclusively did mall trick-or-treating until I was a little bit older.
No,
That was what
no.
my parents did.
get out of here.
Growing up, for me, it was very much because I had an older brother, 2 years older than me. And when we were younger, we would always go trick-or-treating. And he was like, oh, I got to take you along. And I'm like, it was one of those things that, older brother doesn't really want a younger brother tagging along. But then I explained it to him. I'm like, listen, if we go together, that's double the candy. And he's like, wait a second. I'm like,
Yeah, and
you're understanding now, right?
The
And he's like,
tradesiest part is very important.
exactly. So on top of that as well, like when I was young, my neighborhood was bumping. Like you literally went from house to house to house to house, getting candy across the board.
that is the other thing. Like I would probably say the density of available housing. Available house. No, I'm not going that way.
That's a
The
different
density of
discussion.
available trick or treat houses. We're not talking about we're talking about the trick or treat economy, not the actual housing economy.
It is it was way
think it's
less.
lower.
Certainly
Yes.
less.
I think it's-
one in like 5 houses
Back in the
now
day,
or
it was like
something.
2 out of 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think back in the day, it was like 2/3 of houses would have trick or treats, whether they were handing it out or you could grab your own or whatever the situation is. Now it's gotta be like one in 5, maybe 1 in 4, depending. I would say the highest is probably 1 in 3 in newer suburbs.
Sure, with lots of
where
children,
you
right?
expect to be
Yeah.
younger children
Yeah.
and things like that. But like if you are in older neighborhoods where there's not likely to be younger families, even though the density of housing is probably actually higher. Fewer trick-or-treat houses, even though I would say those communities might actually have cooler things because they tend to do like, I remember like haunted houses.
Actually, about that, I was actually going to ask you guys about that, because growing up, there was always this one house in our neighborhood that was called the Chainsaw House, because what they would have, they went all out for Halloween, because it was like all their lights were off, but like they had like spooky lighting turned on, and they had like a porch that you'd have to go up, and there was like a guy sitting in like a rocking chair next to the door that would like jump at you every once in a while, but it wouldn't be always, so you couldn't expect it all the time. But there was also
make
like
it through to the backyard to get like candy
on the front lawn. There was a guy with a chainsaw. Obviously, there was like no blade on the chainsaw, but like, he was like revving it the entire time to like scare kids away. And the reward was you got like a handful of full-size chocolate bars if you made it there. But so many people were like scared and like they wouldn't go. But like I remember that vividly, and I'm like, that place was awesome. Like that made a Halloween experience. And like, did you guys have anything like that when you were growing up?
Well, as an exclusive mall trick-or-treater, no, I did start going to the neighborhoods when I was a little bit older, but I don't recall. I just know that there was a house that always went all out with those inflatables, and that was always a big kind of, and it was fun to see. They would put a new one up every single day of the month leading up to, so it was kind of fun to go by every single day and go, oh, this is a new jack-o'-lantern or whatever it is. So maybe not the same spirit, but I think that just generally I see less of that type of enthusiasm. And mall trick-or-treating used to actually be sick. Like I used to get really, really cool gadgets and things because I would go to Chinook Mall. And that's where. But now I know that I went a few years ago just to go grab something. And like most of the mall stores have signs that say no candy now. And I'm like, well, that's not very fun. Like that, because that used to be kind of the way to do it.
Yeah.
If you didn't want to freeze to death outside. And now most of them don't even do candy anymore. So it's kind of sad that that's not even an option available. Because it is a good option if you maybe have like accessibility issues in terms of sidewalks or snow and things like that. But yeah, it's kind of a bygone era too.
As somebody who like worked in retail for a good bit, I used to work at Chinook Mall, and I remember giving out kids. Here's a child. Here you go. Take it with you. I don't want it anymore. Giving kids candy from our mall from our store, because like the prevailing idea is that it would attract people, so they would come in and browse or whatever. That's not true. We all know what the interaction is.
Yeah, they run up, they grab a handful, and they run away again.
Yeah,
exactly.
But at the same time,
I don't even have to say trick or treat. You know what? That's the part that maybe angers me the most. There's no requirement to say trick or treat when you're mall trick or treating, because
I definitely
there's
said
no
trick or
door
treat.
to knock on. There's no doorbell.
I think I always had to run around and find a store associate and say trick or treat to them. That was the rule. I am also much older, so I don't know what them kids are doing these days in terms of that. But
you'll have to live vicariously
things have
through
changed.
your child.
Yeah, he's a little bit too little to go trick or treating. I think it'll take a couple years before we can actually do that.
No, that's just you going out for candy at that point.
Yes, right now it would be me pushing a little newborn around in a stroller, being like, "Can I have candy? I deserve candy."
Well, you say that as though it's ridiculous, but there are some families out there that rock that on Halloween, where they have this little baby and they're like, it's his first trick or treating, and it's like, he's too small to realize what's going on, but okay, here's some candy, have fun, bye.
That's fair. I think this year I want to stay home and give out candy. So in a few years when he's older, then we will become the. Actually, that raises a point. Does someone have to stay home to give out the candy while the other people go out to get candy? Is that the circular economy here?
Yes, because like for me, it was always my parents stayed home, and we just rocked it getting candy when we were growing up. So it was always the case of like, because back in the day, like you weren't as worried about your kids walking around, being crazy. You know how it was back in the day.
I'm still not that worried about it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just out of touch here.
I mean, I don't know if it really matters, but I mean, if we're talking about, again, the trick-or-treat economy, as it were, if the numbers are like 1 in 5, 1 in 4, whatever it is. I'm just being like, do your part. Like, I can't do my part because I'm in an apartment. But you know what I actually do is I usually go to a friend's house where they actually have a accessible
Front
house for
door.
trick or treating.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like anybody comes to the
And-
door, just rock it, right?
We just do shifts of doing the trick or treating, and we have a jack o' lantern of some sort out there. You know, got to do the signaling.
That's actually one thing I miss.
That's the red light district of candy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, that's one way of putting it.
That's what a jack o' lantern is. It's the red light. Okay.
Okay, that's not what I miss, but I miss the jack-o'-lantern carving with like hanging out with friends and like carving jack-o'-lanterns and stuff like that. Like
We
there's
did
some-
that a few years ago, didn't we? Or I feel like I did that with a few Otafest people a few years ago. Though now I can't recall
It's been a while.
which
I do it on the
that
regular.
was.
Yeah, honestly, for me,
just-
it's
it's
been
just-
a while ever since pandemic and everything. Like,
Right, yeah,
it's-
but definitely pre-pandemic. I just remember
Yeah.
holding the really crappy knife that you buy, that's mostly plastic, and then like with freezing cold
Oh,
hands
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
get into
yeah.
the pumpkin. So do you?
No, go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say, do you have a tradition of watching movies then while you're waiting for kids to come up, or
Yes.
very much so.
Board games, and movies. Usually, really bad movies.
I mean,
Just
they're bad horror movies,
Wow.
but you know, like okay, it's because there's only so many good movies out there, right? So eventually you have to go to the
Here's the
bad horror
argument.
movies.
here's the argument. Okay,
Uh-huh.
you could just watch the good ones. And this is me saying, like, I'm notoriously known for not rewatching things, but I'm also I don't have that many more neurons left. Okay, I don't need to kill off the ones I have left watching really bad movies when I could just be watching decent, good horror movies or just horror movies in general. I don't know why I do this to myself, where I'm watching like. I'm okay with B movies. I like B movies, but I'm telling you, on Halloween for some reason, we delve into like the R movies and the S movies, where there's no grading left for these. They're just absolutely brain destroying. I should have just
Would like to clarify
that's why
this is
people
going
drink.
down the alphabet, so like the tier's getting lower than B.
Yes. I'm just getting. Maybe this is why people drink. Maybe I should drink.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
This is-
Okay,
Was not realizing we're spinning into this existential crisis.
I
wanna hear
really
G's
enjoy
opinion.
B movies. Like hands down, like B movies are entertaining because
You
they're
like Jerry
dumb.
Seinfeld that much?
No. Also, the advantage of B movies when you're like, handing out candy and stuff like that is if you miss a bit, it doesn't matter. Like, kid comes to the door, you're watching a B movie, you just leave the movie playing, you go hand out candy,
I
come
disagree.
back.
100% I disagree. Because here's the thing. In well-written movies, well-acted movies, you have to follow the thread,
Right?
okay? But like they write it and it's well-written and well-acted, so you know sort of where it's going.
Right?
Bad movies, 13 different stupid things could be happening, and by the time you
100%.
come back from your like 45-second interaction with the children at the door, you are like, how did I get from clown land to like spider forest, and 16 different things happen in between, and there's a whole different cast at this point. Like, I don't know what's happening.
All right. I'm
That's
understanding.
the problem with those movies.
I see where you're coming from. You get too invested in the movie story and you need to know what's going on. Meanwhile, I'm just like, yeah, stuff's happening. Like, I watch B movies very relaxed, not even like worrying about stuff like that.
I need to drink. I'm learning. I should drink and
Alternatively-
watch movies. That's what other
alternatively-
people probably do.
Good horror movies. The whole concept of that, right? Like, you put on a good horror movie and it gives you that like nice spooky vibes going on. Like you said, a well-written story, so you're able to follow along. And it just sets the tone so perfectly. Like, those movies, man, those are my jam. Even if it's just gonna be a rerun of it because I've watched it a bunch of times before, I still love watching something like that. Which is like one of the things. There's a new Exorcist movie coming out, right?
Yes.
Did
Why?
I don't know, but I'm curious. I'm curious. I want to know. The original Exorcist,
Yeah,
good times. Well, not good times, but crazy times. But the movie was good, and I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with the upcoming one.
When you say the
looking at
movie
it.
is good, is it that you enjoy the scare,
Well-
or is that you're not actually scared?
I don't really get scared. Like when I was younger, I used to visit my cousins, and at any given time of the year, they were always like, "Yeah, let's watch horror movies." So I was exposed to horror movies from a very young age, and they would scare the crap out of me when I was younger. However, because of that, I've been desensitized to a lot of that. So like now where I am, I will casually watch horror on the side. There was times when I was working and I would have like horror shorts playing on one of my screens while I was working on the other one, and my team lead was sitting next to me, and he like looks over and he's like, "What?" I'm like, I just needed something playing while I was working," and he's like, "Well, you're getting the work done, whatever, but why this?" I'm like, "I don't know, it's relaxing." He just kind of stared at me for a couple minutes as like somebody was dying on the other screen, and he's just like, "What?" And I'm like, don't worry about it. So yeah, horror movies, they don't really scare me, but they're interesting. I like them.
That's interesting because I grew up with horror movies too. We lived in Japan for a few years, and Japanese horror is like a different experience. And I just think I actually have, like, I think I have PTSD from it, where if I hear or like I start seeing movies ramping up towards a certain type of storyline, I just get so sweaty and uncomfortable that I can't enjoy it. It's like I just get like cold
the
sweats.
nervous
Like
sweats.
I'm like so scared, right? Like even if I'm not mentally scared, I just feel so uncomfortable that I can't find it enjoyable. So I have to. So I really enjoy, but I want to know the story. This is the problem. I really want to know the story. So
like you're actually invested.
I am
That's
invested.
the thing, right?
So then there are, bless these people. There's YouTubers who do these sort of recaps of horror movies. I watch those exclusively because I can see like tiny clips and I can hear the storyline, but I don't have to experience what the director is trying to do. Like I'm cheating the director, right, of all their hard work of ramping up the scare or like the surprise or the twist, but that is the only way I can experience it. Otherwise, I'm just like it really, really like gives me a physiological reaction in a way that I don't enjoy.
You get to skip those tension moments.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really like knowing what's going on in them. Like I got really into looking at videos that talked about Midsummer, that horror movie. I thought it was really interesting, but I still have not sat down and actually watched the whole thing. I've watched clips of it that I thought were like, they would talk about some plot point and I would be like, oh, I want to see actually how this was played out, but like I haven't watched it from beginning to end altogether.
Okay, interesting.
For when it comes to horror genre, I love the genre as a whole, but the medium and the theme are really important to me because, like Linda, you just talked about like Japanese horror is a different approach. Asian horror in general has a different approach because they pull horror from different mythologies and lore. One of the things that I super can't get into is like Catholic or Christian horror. Like I really don't care about like nuns, scary nuns, and and possession. Like or not even possession, but like specifically like, oh, here's a cross, get away from me. Like I don't care about any of that
kind of deal. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like I like cheesy horror in the sense that one of my favorite stupid movies is like Van Helsing, for example.
Right.
That's not really a horror. That's more action.
But it's in the mythological like horror kind of
Okay, yeah, no.
genre. That's the thing. Like
I'll
the
agree
myth
with that.
is there.
Yeah,
right? I don't care for most movies because I will also say like it's very hard for me to get startled or scared. Like I don't know how it is, but like the build up very rarely gets to me. I would say video games are probably better at that for sure. There's things like if I had a brain, I could remember the name of the title I'm trying to think about.
Silent Hill? Phasmophobia? Okay.
Phasmophobia is kind of cool just because there's more buildup and environmentally you're in it. But I would argue that most video games that are made to be scary are much better because you're very invested into it.
You're forced to interact with it.
Yeah, you're interacting, or else you don't make any progress. And then you're like, well, what's the point? So there is that balance.
I mean, a game like Phasmophobia adds to the scare as well because you have no way of fighting back, really. It's just like... There's ghosts of X type in here. Go find out what it is. And you're like, all right, I guess I'll do it, but you can't really fight back. And it's first person as well. So you're very much in the character too.
Yeah, I would say jump scares in general don't get me very much. There's very few times that it's actually surprised me. And then there's like horror literature, which, so I think I've never really read horror literature except for two exceptions. One would be growing up, I used to read like Goosebumps. Love
Yes.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. 100% dig Goosebumps.
is the OG. Yeah, I'm not even saying that they were like super scary, but as a kid, when I read them, I was like, I guess they're a little scary, and
really
kinda got
enjoyable.
me into that genre. Yeah, and then the second thing was and I think Linda's into these a little bit as well as Korean webtoons, but like early ones that I used to read because they used to be. I think some people know about these. I haven't read anything recent, and when I say recent, I mean in the last 15 years, or something like that. But they used to do these webtoons where, if you know anything about like programming for, like web browsers, there's like JavaScript or stuff like that, where so you'd be reading it, and then they would have like you would hit a point.
I know exactly the one you're talking
scrolling down or something like that, and then they would like actually like essentially have a jump scare by scrolling the page really quick and then creating essentially like an animation effect, and then they would actually like the monster or whatever would come out at you. That was actually pretty cool. Plus there's like the aspect of it's interesting when you're reading literature because you are kind of controlling the pace of how you engage with that medium. So, but when you're reading a webtoon, like there's that graphic aspect and the story, the verbal storytelling, whether it's the narrative or the characters interacting through dialogue. But then it can get you because it takes that control out of your hands for a second. And I think that's really cool because unlike a video game, you're generally in control. Right, like you like yes, you're right. In like Phasmo, you can't necessarily fight back very easily, or if at all, depending on whatnot. But you're generally in control of your experience. Like in a movie, you're not in control of your experience, but you know that you need to be expecting something at all times. I feel like so there's almost a guard. But when you're reading literature like a webtoon, and it has that ability to literally wrest control from you. Even though you think you're like, oh, here's the dialogue, this is the setup, they're meeting.
You think you're in control, and then all of a sudden,
it actually takes it away from you for just that second, and it's like it can get you. That's probably some of the best medium that I've seen for horror. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, because I know I'm describing it sort of vaguely,
intentionally,
yeah, but just look up like Korean webtoon horror and like on Google or whatever, and I'm sure they'll give you some of the classics and stuff like that. That stuff was like immaculate. Like it's short.
And
it's not
it's
like you're not going to be
form,
spending like
right?
hours of reading. Yeah, but it gives you that like that rush.
But it was I think that was like the creepypasta of our youth, right? Is that your friend would send you this link, oh, look at this new thing. This is back when Crunchyroll was still a totally illegitimate website, and YouTube still only gave you 4-minute uploads. And so your friends would send you a link, you'd look at it and you go, oh yeah, here's a manga, essentially. That's what you might think it was. And then suddenly something would happen. It is, but I've actually forgotten about those, but that is a great point.
I just checked the date on it.
I think though that if you Google Korean webtoon, there's now so many modern Korean webtoon horror that many which I have read, that I don't know if it would pop up in the same way. So
well, that specific one, if you just look up Korean horror webtoon, it is the first link.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh,
it came out in 2011.
it's probably because it was
2011.
so good.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so close though. I said 15 years and it's about 12.
That's pretty good.
Yep. But yeah, that one in particular, like when that
That's
first
the
came
one
out, I had no idea about
walking
it.
on the sidewalk.
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
Yep. And that is
I'm not gonna give it away.
And that is based off Asian mythology too. It is very much like yeah. So do you read?
But I used to. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna. Do you read things like Junjo Ito, like classic, true horror manga?
Okay, first of all, don't call it classic. Okay, Junji Ito is not classic yet, but he does tap into. But I would say he does tap into like content. Like he has, I think, fairly created his own lore of what horror is.
Yes.
He doesn't necessarily tap into the very old traditional Japanese horror lore, such as like Yuki Onna, or like, the lady that has the really long neck, or her head floats and stuff like that. He's done his own thing, but the art style that he communicates it in is it looks traditional as the manga and stuff. I think it's really well done. One of the favorite things I love about Junji Ito is I don't know if you've ever seen a photo of him. He looks so wholesome.
I'm gonna look one up right now.
It's not just the fact that he looks so wholesome. Like, there's stuff where it's just like Junji Ito, his art, and then him, and it's just like you see his art, it's like really spooky, scary, and then you see a picture of him, and he's just like smiling.
He doesn't look like some wannabe like goth dude. Who's
he's just like the most wholesome looking, lovable dude, and I'm just like, oh.
You pass him on the street, you would not know.
Oh my gosh, he looks like just like this really lovely like office worker.
Yeah.
He looks so wholesome, and then you look at his art, and you're like, whoa.
Yes. Something that's similar. I remember. So the horror literature I used to actually read, aside from Goosebumps, but in that, I used to read a lot of Eastern European lore.
Oh, like Slavic?
About, like, mythology and horrors. Yes, like Slavic in nature. Some things that were like, I honestly don't remember much because like it's been so long. Like, I'm not even joking. It's literally been almost 20 years since I've really looked it up. But a lot of it was... just things that were less Americanized, less like sensationalized, and they don't typically make a lot of like movies or other additional media about. But like the monsters that they would have, the creatures, the things like a bump in the night, that was kind of my jam. About I wish I could name more of the things I'm talking about, but they were really just like. Yes, like sort of Slavic, Eastern European, sort of like the old, like, how a lot of horror folk tales are like based off of what is that? What's that like? The Brothers Grimm.
Yes.
Right. There's a lot of stuff that's based off of the Brothers Grimm. The things I'm talking about are things that the Brothers Grimm are based from, like. Brothers Grimm is another level up of stuff that they've collected and tales and monsters and things like that. And then the things I'm talking about are like the sourcing of what...
Like the core stories where those stories came from.
Exactly. And then like I really like those because a lot of that was like very corporeal somehow. Like there's no like... It's not really spirits a lot of the time. A lot of it is like creatures and the environment of Eastern Europe in the sense of like old growth forests and like old villages and places that are lived in. And that's how I also compare like Junji Ito's sort of, when I say he's created his own sort of genre and his own lore, he creates these worlds that are lived in. And therefore they feel like there's some tangible aspect in it. It's not just something that is, too superficial, I guess is the right word.
I think what you're aiming for is essentially these stories and like Junji Ito stories, the way they're told and the way that you go through them, they feel more real. Like this is something that could happen to something around you kind of scenario where you can see this like this village and you could probably like go there kind of scenario versus like some of the horror stuff out there these days is very much like, yeah, that's horror, but it's kind of like it's ridiculous. That's not really gonna be realistic kind of scenario. Like it's too crazy, too out there.
Are you talking about tapping into like humanity's foundational fears, things that we all universally are scared of?
So yes, there's something that I've said this story before on the podcast, but I don't think I've ever told you to, because it's not like a topic that just comes up. So I used to live at this house that had like a large corner lot. Both of you actually been there because we used to record live podcasts at that house, and it was a large corner lot. And then the backyard, like because it's an older neighborhood, large backyard. Not a lot of lighting. And I'm sort of a night owl, so sometimes I'll do like errands at night or whatever. And I remember this one time, and I don't scare easy. Like I genuinely can't remember the last time I was like truly.
You're
immediately
a
find
very
or something.
unflusterable person, I would say.
Yeah, like I'm pretty steady on my feet. And I remembered I wanted to just take out the garbage really quickly. So, just like any other neighborhood in Calgary, most of you have back alleys that you're going to throw your stuff in the bin, right?
Yep.
And our backyard did not really have any lighting in it. And there was like a couple of street lamps nearby on the actual street, but that's like covered by tree foliage and stuff like that. Anyway, so I'm just saying that it was mostly dark in the backyard. Have to travel through the backyard. Most people know their backyards. I'm going to throw that out there. That you're probably not unfamiliar with the back garden path that goes to the gate, and then you're going to chuck your stuff in the bin. And I did all that. And on the way back in, so like there's a tree that grows in this backyard. And like I said, it was just mostly dark. I have no fear of the dark. But I think the tree snagged my shoulder for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I was like, what was that? Even though I have no real reason to feel unsafe. I'm in my own backyard in a populated city of over 1 million people.
Definitely over
like,
1,000.
There's no real reason. Yeah, definitely over 1,000, thousands. And in that moment, I kind of just understood what it might have been like to grow up in a time without like electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're traveling through the woods at night and you've got actual wildlife around you, and they're all making like, I don't know if you've ever heard I think it's like a wildcat, maybe like a cougar or a lynx.
Oh, they make crazy sounds.
Scream. They make sounds that sound like a woman screaming.
Yeah, humanoid screams.
Very terrifying. And in that moment, I could understand where a lot of our like mythologies come from and lore about like why every culture has like demons and devils and all that kind of stuff. Because like I said, I was in pretty much the most safe environment I could be.
And a familiar one at
Outside
that.
of being inside, inside, other than being inside a house or something like that. And I was still like, oh, like that got me for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Just the worst feeling of that unknown. And I glimpsed into it in 2018 or something like that, where I live in an environment that I should have no such fear. And it still got me for just half a second there. I was like, okay. And I think that's the kind of genre I'm into. That's why I need that whole like there's a tangible fear.
I think that's
about your
It feels
environment.
that much more real,
right? I think it's a pretty. As someone who has gotten temporarily lost while hiking in the woods, I think I can understand. That's probably the most scared I've been in my entire life.
Truthfully, something like that would be more scary to me than like.
Yes.
And I knew I
because
wasn't.
You're actually in the unknown.
But the thing is, I knew I wasn't that lost. I was hiking really close to Banff town site.
Right.
I knew that I couldn't be more than a kilometer away from the hiking trail that I accidentally got off of. I was with my best friend. It was broad daylight. It was Saturday. Like, and
you still like had that moment.
But there was about 30 minutes where both of us were. You don't want to voice your fears, right? So both of us were like trying to be like, I think we should go this way. But both of us the entire time were like, holy crap. And once we got back, we went to the McDonald's that's in Banff. I bought like 7 large pops.
The center
I was just
of
like,
civilization.
I was like other humans.
McDonald's, we're safe again.
But the odd thing was, at first we were scared that we hadn't seen other people, and then we became scared to see other people. Like there was one point where we saw a tent in the distance, and we were like, "Do we go to the tent? That tent is so off trail."
Yo, that's like
Or is
some
that, like,
like
the
the
most
old like
suspicious tent?
survival shit.
Yeah, and then but we had to walk
the-
by it because we ended up walking along dirt bike trails because we knew that would take us somewhere, and we walked by this tent, and it's afterwards I was like, these people were harmless. It smelled like weed.
Sure.
Like these people were definitely just hanging out. But in that
they're the
moment,
most
we were
harmless they
like,
could be.
"Who are these people?" Like let's we were for a second
How
we were like,
bad
"Should
is
we
it?
ask them where we are, or should we just like sneak past and just keep going?" We saw like a little campfire smoke at one point, and we were like, "We're not going there." Like that gives us bad vibes, and it's not rational because I'm sure those people were just regular campers, but that
And not
fear
serial
shifted.
killers.
The fear shifted from, "Wow, we haven't seen people in 15 minutes," to, okay, like now I don't want to see people until we're back onto the very established trail that we know we're supposed to be on, right?
All I can say is, how bad is it that like you see, or you think there could be suspicious bad people in a tent somewhere near Banff, and you find solace in the clown-themed fast food restaurant.
But there's so
And
many
you're like,
witnesses.
that's the one. That's the safety. I'm gonna get some nuggies.
Food is comforting,
Nuggies of
okay?
safety.
Food is very
Nuggies of
comforting.
safety.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's fair.
And I
Actually,
don't
because of
believe,
the-
and I don't believe at all in things like Bigfoot or Slender Man or whatever, all the, like these types of things. But if you asked me in that moment, I wouldn't have been 100% confident that I wouldn't have seen something I didn't want to see, right? Like something unusual or outlandish. Again, we really could not have been more than 10, 15 minutes away from other humans at any point. We just were kind of going parallel to the trail instead of going on it. And our signal was not very good. And we were afterwards supposed to go to an Otafest friends like going away party. And so I was like, well, Jay and company know when we don't show up after 3 hours to call.
They know we're here.
Call people, you know?
No, I'm just being like,
If we truly get lost, somebody will come look for us. I hope.
no, they're gone. They're dead. There's no hope. But yeah, that's the kind of horror I think we all can actually relate to. I don't get scared at Scream Fest horror, like actual they're manufactured horror is not scary. That's what it is.
I completely agree with you, which is why like the real like horror that actually still gets me these days is more of the literature, the written horror, but it's like the creepypastas of like things of like you said, the more normal, the more stuff that is
Relatable
familiar.
fears. Yes.
And then it's like it takes that familiar and then it like twists it a little bit. And that little bit of a twist is all of a sudden it starts making everything more creepy, more scary, and it's like, ooh, that gives you the little bit of extra shudders.
Yeah, it gives you the shivers.
But it makes me wonder if people who don't grow up by the mountains like us, if they have the same fear of the forest, or like, are they more scared of the ocean or something, the desert, something more environmentally relatable to that person.
I think part of it is the environment you grow up in might factor in, but you could also argue the other way, where it's like because you don't know these other environments as well,
They're
they could
scarier.
be more fear to them because it is more of the unknown. Whereas like if you live in the desert, I've never lived in the desert, but if you grow up in Nevada or something like that, maybe you're just aware of more of what the environment can present or what the natural hazards are that could create such fear, and how someone could tie in maybe slight supernatural elements to that, but you understand it though, and maybe you're less scared of it somehow, but you have almost like a nostalgic tie-in versus like true unknown. Like I don't know, again, jack shit about deserts. I don't know much about old growth forests. I don't know much about the ocean that much. I kind of grew up by the ocean, but most people that I've found with any fear of the ocean have to do with like there's either it's the fear of the unknown, like the death and the
Being dragged
sort
down.
of, yeah, exactly, or that because they actually just don't know how to swim. They don't know how to survive in that environment.
Yeah,
guess
I know
like-
that fear. That's a real fear of not knowing how to swim.
Oh no! Do you not know how to swim, G?
No.
This is a new thing I'm learning.
It's because when I was growing up, I was tall, and therefore it was like, all right,
still
we're
tall,
gonna,
by the way.
we're gonna, yeah, okay, but like it was the thing of like, it's like when it was like swim class, it's like, all right, we're gonna swim in the shallow end, and I'm like standing, and the water was not even that high on me, and I'm like, what? How am I supposed to swim in this? And they're like,
Oh, that's
just
interesting.
swim along with everybody, and I was just like, this isn't working because my feet just keep hitting the floor, and they're like, okay, you can go a little bit further. I'm like, that's still not enough. And then I couldn't go to the deep end because they're like, that's not safe. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do then? So I never really learned how to swim.
Oh man.
I learned another friend didn't know how to swim. I offered to teach them, but apparently in Calgary pools, you're not allowed to teach other people how to swim because I think it's just a liability issue for them.
Really?
And they explicitly state that like you're not allowed to teach someone how to swim in our pools. Please just take our like swimming lessons. I actually don't think it's like a cash grab or whatever, because at the end of the day, they're trying to teach you a valuable skill as administered and coached by people who know how to swim better than most of the population in a sense,
And are
So I
prepared
get
for
it.
a situation where somebody might like panic or like
Yeah, are
Exactly,
strong swimmers
they're-
in and of their
Yeah,
own right.
Exactly.
exactly.
So, like, while that kind of annoyed me, I was just like, I think it's a good idea. Like, because you can enjoy so many other recreational activities once you do learn how to swim. But I would advise that. I don't know. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
And then you won't have to be scared about it.
I was about to say
It's
that
true.
we should do a group thing where we take G and teach him how to swim. But then now you've dashed my dreams and hopes.
I
was
mean,
like, we can
we
go to
could
a
go
lake.
all the same and just
Going to a
Not
lake
tell
is so much
anybody.
more unsafe that I really don't think that's a good idea.
Why would you say that? Don't tell him that. We could have done it. And you've taken away that possibility.
Well, there are people on the Otafest staff who are actually really like Ian has a lifeguard level swimming certification, so that's probably safe, right? I think.
I would hope so.
We'll see.
I think at the very
we'll
least
put
I would
that
be like
certification to the test.
I would very much be like, all right, can you drag me in a scenario that I need to be dragged? If yes, then I'll feel safe around that.
I think that's a yes for most people because the buoyancy really you are much taller than most of us, but the buoyancy actually changes. It's not as big of a deal to lift somebody up when you're have the big weight.
In water, yes.
Yeah, in water.
Like,
Logic
you get
tells
to,
me
you get to look
that makes
super
a lot of
strong when
sense.
you wanna. I can carry a bunch of friends on my shoulders in the water. I can do it in like on dry land, but
It's easier in water.
buoyancy helps a lot.
Yeah. Oh, man,
I think we've got to put a cap on the episode.
Yeah, there's so many more things I
close
want
to
to
the end
talk
here.
about though, but yeah, I think we should cap it.
Well, there's always more opportunities. I'm glad to have you guys here. So thank you so much for joining me. And again, we'll be trying to get more guests, co-hosts on here. So, whenever you're available, I'm sure we can do a few more rotations of friendly voices on our podcast.
Always happy to help out.
Yeah, just let me know. This is a great excuse to lock myself away and be like, sorry, you had to take the baby somewhere else, and I don't have to look and deal with him for 2 hours.
Wow, what a clearly loving stance. You're like, I'm with my family all the time. I don't.
I just need a break to talk about horror.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, thank you so much for joining me. And
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
everyone take care. Enjoy the rest of your spooky month. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Spoopy.
Spoopy.